Well, I said I was going shopping, and I know some of you like to come shopping with me. So look at that, all that yellow. Now, some Englishmen might call that oilseed rape. Of course, here in France, it's known as colza. Trees starting to blossom. Those trees are just use they use the generic word for them, les pruniers. They're assorted trees that have various types of plums, different sorts. It's a lovely time of year, but of course it does have its certain element of fear and doubt, because this morning we woke up to a very mild frost, and you know, those fruit trees, if they flower a little bit early, and if the fruit sets and then you get a frost, then you don't get any fruit. And in truth, they don't. A lot of those trees don't get picked and harvested. They're sort of mainly eaten by the birds. But what a lovely morning. I don't know if you can see it, but just over the ridge of hills there's the turbines turning, generating electricity. I think that's what they do. Maybe they are electrically powered, and maybe they're what blow the world to rotate. I don't know. What do you think? Over on the left I can see some Charolais. Growing beef for us. I had a passenger the other day, and I pointed out the Charolais, and she just looked at me and said, "Yum yum." She's a French lady who doesn't speak any English, but I guess we all understood what yum yum means. See some brown cows, Limousin. Having their breakfast. so we approach Yzeures, Creuse. We're not going sightseeing this morning. Wednesdays are a bit of a funny day for me. I thoroughly enjoy Wednesdays, but the afternoon activities tend to truncate the morning ones. Yes, this afternoon I shall be playing Scrabble with a gang of elderly ladies. I shall be trying to find uses for those words that Randall so kindly supplied to us the other day. One of the things that's really useful to me with playing Scrabble is, of course, we play in French, and the ladies, well, Scrabble isn't a game. Scrabble is warfare. No prisoners are taken, and they are brutal, and they use words that I don't understand. So when they use a word that I don't understand, we'll have a discussion and they'll try and translate or make sense of it for me. And sometimes they use words that really are not suitable for use in church. And we have a few giggles about that. But if you're going to win a game of Scrabble, well, needs must when the devil drives. Right, let's turn into the shops. Wow, that was the shopping done. I didn't actually need very much, having surplus in the fridge that needs to be eaten before I refill it. But there was one thing that I did want, and I wanted a sheet of 120 grit wet and dry. And I might tell you why I want 120 grit wet and dry later. I might not, I don't know yet. So I went in the big supermarket and I wandered about aimlessly, and I picked up water for a friend of mine, which wasn't in stock on Saturday, but it's in stock today, so that was good. Funnily enough, I bought a bag of cat food. Don't know why I need that. And a bottle of milk, which wasn't in stock on Saturday, but it is today. So that was good. And then I went in the hardware shop, and lo and behold, I found the lamp bulbs that a friend of mine had asked me to get. And they weren't actually a bad price. They're not the same type. They're the new replacement LED type. So I checked all the dimensions, and that was good. And I bought a small sheet of expanded aluminium for the job that I discussed previously. I'd only got one, and one isn't going to do the whole job, but it will do a little bit of it. And I bought some replacement knife blades, you know, the little boxes with the blades for replacing your blade in your Stanley knife. And I knew there was something that I'd forgotten. Well, anyway, I've remembered now. I've left the shop, and I'm not going back today. I've got plenty else to do. But there we are. That was a successful raid on the shops. By the time I get back, it will be warm enough to start doing things. if you look behind the sign that says Accueil, that building there is a bread oven. And every so often, I don't know for what reason or what occasions, every so often they light it, and I assume they cook bread. Bread is a very important foodstuff. You know, how can you eat soup without bread? How can you wipe the sauces off your plate without bread? Something that I discovered reading local history related to the First World War. Now, when they teach history in school, they sort of talk about the politicians and the kings and the presidents and the battles. We think of the First World War, and Americans will think of Belleau Wood, the English will think of Ypres or the Somme, and of course the French think of Verdun. But this region was, in its own way, a battlefield. Battlefield for feeding the country. All the men of military age were dragged into the army. The French army during the First World War was absolutely enormous. Millions and millions of men. And everything was aimed at making guns and shells and things, which caused a problem. Let's just make sure, there we are, no traffic coming, that's good. If all of the young men go off to fight in terrible battles, there are no fit men to cut trees. If you don't cut trees, you don't have firewood, and if you don't have firewood, the bakers can't bake bread. And it caused a crisis across France, well, across the world in effect, but you know, we're in France, so let's stay local. It caused a crisis in this region. The bakers couldn't get firewood to fire their ovens to cook the bread. Now, in part, the solution was to use prisoners of war. So a lot of German prisoners of war found themselves cutting trees, cutting firewood to feed the French bread ovens with firewood to feed the French nation. And it's something that, as we find ourselves now in another war, something that we don't often think about. You know, everyone talks about whether we should send tanks to the Ukraine or whether it's time to send them F-16s and all of those sorts of things that people and ah about. You know, can the Ukrainians operate Abrams tanks, Challenger, Leopard 2? We're learning things we never thought we needed to learn. But one of the big things that we need to understand is the food supply chain. This part of France has been affected by a war in the Ukraine. Everyone talks about oil prices going up, but of course Ukraine produces an awful lot of other things. And we had a crisis here at the start of the war when the shops just ran out of mustard. Apparently the Ukraine produces a very significant proportion of the mustard that the world uses, you know, the mustard seed. And we had a period where you simply could not get whole grain mustard in the shops. I don't actually use that much of it, but most of my friends and neighbours do, and it was a serious problem for them. But there we are. Other problems today. But I've got solutions for my problems for today, so all is good. This is what we think of as a traffic jam here, running up the back of a tractor and trailer. I don't know that I want to get too close to that one. What's he got in his trailer? Doesn't look like the sort of thing that I want all over the car. On the left is the hotel. A few years ago I did stay in there for a few nights, and it's perfectly acceptable, perfectly serviceable. Besides all of the shopping that I had to pay for, well, we got a lot of stuff that was free. That's a shame, isn't it? And that